There are always going to be altcoins that do better than others. It's just how markets work. And in today's video, I've got some altcoins that I believe will outperform the market. I've got large caps, mid caps, and even some hidden gems that you need to know about moving in to the 2025 bull run. Now, there are a lot of reasons why I look at some altcoins over others, and I've made it my whole mission the last 3-4 years to find the ones that will outperform in the case of a bull run. So things like powerful narratives. Where is it? Is it AI, real world asset? And of course, will these areas be important over the next 12 to 18 months? Is the project unique? Does it have good marketing? If it can't market itself, no matter how good the project is, it will not go anywhere in the world of crypto. Does it have a strong team? This is also very important because a team are the people that decide the marketing needs to change, are the people that decide the project needs to go into more narratives or it needs to be more unique. Does it have good tokenomics? Doesn't have to be great, but just good enough to let the average person seem like it's not a big deal. Is the community growing? Because a growing community are the people who are, of course, buying the floor of the project. Does it have constant updates, improvements, but most importantly, catalysts coming out in the sense of, are we being fed bullish news? If there's no bullish news, price won't likely move. If price ain't moving, people get bored and leave the project. And lastly, is it showing strength? All right, when we do have signs of weakness, like we've recently had, of course, where we've fallen down from the tariffs. Now, you can see here, this is one of the many sheets we use in the private community to, of course, track the dominance, track the strength of the coins. And you can see here, we've averaged out all of the coins based on how they've been performing. Okay, so you want to find the coins on this list that have a score of 3 to 4. Okay, these are the coins overall that are extremely strong. Now, I cannot underestimate how important having powerful narratives also is. That's why I often find myself using charts like this, which is DeFi Llama's tracking narrative chart, where I look at over the last 365 days, how the different narratives have performed. And you can see in this white chart when I'm moving it, this white box, real world assets and AI altcoins, they're pretty much always contending for spot 1 and spot 2, which tells you something very important. Gaming, first of all, is by far in last place. All right, it's barely recovered at all. It's fallen the most, and that's kind of indicative of gaming. I think gaming will be a later pumper. So the coins I mentioned in this video, you will notice, does not have any gaming picks, at least for now. And again, these picks will always change depending on market situations. AI has done really, really well here, down 70%, but recovered about 146%, so roughly about a 2.5x. Real world asset hasn't done quite as good. Okay, it's fallen roughly the same and recovered around about half of that, but it's not too bad. It's about on average. But the best by far is DeFi. Okay, DeFi only fell 57% and it's recovered at 2x. You can see here, it's only down 17%. And lastly, I'll quickly mention meme coins. Meme coins, honestly, haven't done that bad either. But again, by far, DeFi has done the best. So you will see some DeFi altcoins in this list, some DeFi, so to speak, hidden gems. The next thing I like to look for is, of course, how many coins are in these narratives, because like DeFi, it could be the best performing narrative, but there's 1,000 DeFi altcoins that at least DeFi Llama registers. There is a lot of competition in this area. You have to kind of fight to get heard and seen. AI narrative has almost 700, gaming has almost 700, smart contract platforms, so layer 1 type platforms is almost 700, and DeFi down here is only 200. So again, it's how in demand it is and how much competition it is. If there's a lot of competition, it's got to be a pretty unique project. The first coin on this list is Sooie. Now, it's by far the largest project, but I wanted to mention it because I see Sooie potentially doing a Solana of the last cycle. I'm talking going above 100 billion market cap, which is roughly speaking a 10x from here. And depending on how explosive in the news at the time is, it could possibly go up even further. Now, in regards to Sooie and every other coin on this list, I do want to show you guys some fundamental analysis. So some of the announcements, upgrades, and things that make me bullish on each of these coins for this bull run. And I do also want to talk about some short-term potential trades. Look, if you are someone that wants to take max advantage of this bull run, if you're someone like myself who wants to make money when the market goes down, up, sideways, left or right, doesn't really matter. If you're someone who isn't even a trader, but wants to just make some passive returns to throw onto your altcoin positions to buy coins like this, Okay, you are kidding yourself if you are not trying to take full advantage. This opportunity doesn't come around very often, once in every 4 years at best at this point. Okay, so try to trade and learn from the best. Now, I've got Craig Cobb. This guy has got 20 years worth of experience trading Forex, commodities, stocks, you name it, and he's been in crypto for about 10 years. You can see here, 13 days ago, he risked $500 and he's up $10,000 in 2 weeks. Not to mention, this guy, as you can see down here, has over a 90% win rate. And he has a very simple plan to teach you how to do this all in the Discord. You can see here, scroll down, click that link. It is free to join. Once you verify via that link, okay, so watch that 7-minute video from me. It'll tell you how to verify. You will have access to his course in which he teaches you step by step, module by module, how to trade like him. It's simple, it's easy, and again, you can start making money very quickly, like this gentleman over here, when the market goes up or down. It does not matter. We have 10 days left for an awesome bonus now with Femex as well, and we also do have an additional prize pool up for grabs. Not to mention as well, I've got my giveaway of $500 I'm announcing tomorrow, so get your butt in there before it ends. So the fundamental news with Sooie, and what makes me so bullish on this project, is the fact that they understand the thing that makes an ecosystem grow, and as a matter of fact, the project grow, is number one, wallets, ease of access into the ecosystem, and of course the project. And number two is of course stablecoins. Like I mentioned on my full Sooie breakdown, I highly recommend watching that video I made about a week ago. It will tell you all of this and more. Obviously, it was my most recent update on the project, but they've created this new project called Slush. It's by Myson Labs, so the guys who literally built Sooie, and it's a way in which users can actually create a wallet without the seed phrase and all the rest of the complexities like MetaMask and Phantom Wallet. And you just sign in via Meta or you sign in via your Google account. And this is so important because as stablecoin regulations ease up, of course, the regular new retail beginner doesn't really know how to do all that. It's a massive bottleneck. So by making that very easy, Sooie's pretty much saying, hey, you guys are going to want to come into our ecosystem. Now, regarding the technicals of Sooie, first of all, we can see on the weekly chart here that Sooie has put in a higher low. We are right now waiting for a confirmation to break this neckline here, going into a higher high, which ultimately would lead us into much better price action, eventually here breaking the current all-time high and hopefully going into price discovery. Now, many of you know that I'm not a trader. That's why I've got, again, guys like Craig Cobb in the private community and the Discord, okay, links down below to teach you how to do this. I can't beat 20 years worth of experience. So Craig has informed me a few very important things when it does come to these charts, and most importantly, incorporating his approach, which is simple and effective, okay? It's all got to do, of course, with these two moving averages, the 10 EMA and the 20 EMA. Essentially, he's created a cradle zone, and you can see here on the 4-hourly chart, what Craig has pointed out is the fact that we are waiting for a retracement to go into the cradle zone and then a bullish candle to form, which would signal a long position because we have a higher low, okay, and we have created here a higher high. So that's, of course, a very good sign on the 4-hourly. This is mentioned in his course, as I mentioned down below. You can see here, Chapter 7 does cover this in much more detail. So keep your eyes out on Sooie. As for a price prediction, of course, I have all those in the private community, but ultimately speaking, I'm looking for a 10x here as a top price prediction as we go into full alt season. Now, for a slight hidden gem, I guess you could say, because this coin is under a 500 million market cap, it's Aerodrome Finance. Many of you know Aerodrome. It is essentially the de facto decentralized exchange on Coinbase's layer 2 we know as Base. Okay, now Base doesn't have a token, so a lot of people, including myself, have gone ahead and said that Aerodrome will likely be a point which many people will speculate on Base, okay, as kind of like a proxy via Aerodrome. So this is one thing. Fundamentally speaking, I'm very bullish on Aerodrome for many different reasons. Again, that's one of them. But the second here is that they actually buy back tokens and lock them up, so they're pretty much always out of supply. So they're always doing this. You can see here, they pretty much buy these back in like 1 million Aerodrome chunks. They also, as you can see here, do essentially work with Base to provide liquidity for any of the, decentralized or DeFi-esque things that Coinbase decides to do on their chain, okay? So you can see here, they're planning on bringing on foreign exchange. As a matter of fact, they already are technically right now, working with foreign exchange pairs and allowing people to actually trade these. Now, they're also beating, OGs in the DeFi area, the DeFi DEX area, like Uniswap. So they are not to be messed with. And if they do what Uniswap did in the last cycle, we'll likely see, roughly speaking, around a 7 to 10 billion market cap possibly come out. Again, non-financial advice. In regards to the chart, again, a similar story here with Aerodrome as we saw before with Sooie. A lot of these coins have put in higher lows recently from these tariff lows you can see here. Not all of the coins, most of them haven't broken through this previous neckline here in between. So what we're waiting for essentially is a confirmation of a reversal. Okay, right now, Craig has informed me it is far too soon to be making any serious trades, at least on the weekly time frame, so much longer and larger positions, just because, again, it's a little premature to do so. Shorter term, we can, of course, observe a higher low put in here and a higher high put in over here, but of course, it's not really an optimal trade. In my personal opinion, it's better right now for Aerodrome to accumulate this rather than trying to trade it until we have a more clear sign of a bullish pattern. Of course, Craig's plan is to update you guys in the free Discord when it is time to maybe look at opening a long or even a short on Aerodrome. Now, speaking of DeFi and speaking of base, we have the next best contender in my personal opinion, which is Morpho. Morpho is actually the same sort of market cap as Aerodrome right now, and this kind of would be a bit of a hidden gem for many of you who aren't familiar with base or its ecosystem. Now, Morpho is a DeFi project, but more specifically, where it differs from Aerodrome is the fact that it focuses on lending and borrowing, okay? And right now, it's kind of kicking ass. Its total deposits is $6 billion, and its active loans are $2 billion. And you're thinking, Kyron, what the hell is going on here? Because the market cap's only 400 million. This is one of the best market cap to like active TVL ratios in all of crypto by far, okay? Now, the reason simply is because it's working with Coinbase officially to actually allow people to take their Bitcoin and lend and borrow it out. Yes, that's going to, of course, include a lot of the institutions as well. Coinbase themselves said Bitcoin-backed loans on Morpho crossed a $0.5 billion in collateral. So again, Coinbase is shilling Morpho. You've got to be quite bullish about that. So again, you're hitting multiple different narratives. You're hitting DeFi, again, a very powerful narrative. You're hitting, of course, Coinbase, the base narrative, and technically lending, borrowing. It's not as powerful, but it is, of course, something to mention. Now, Morpho is looking quite strong at the moment, and Craig has pointed out he is eyeing off a retracement here, which we're getting very close to, into the cradle zone and a bullish candle to signal a possible buy on the hourly chart. Either way, the weekly chart, again, guys, as I've pointed out, looks very, very similar to the others where we have put in, you can see here, a higher low. And of course, the next area of resistance will be roughly around the $1.70, $1.80 price range. From what we're gathering, of course, so far, when it does come to TA on many of these altcoins, they work in unison. So when they go up, they kind of all go up together, generally speaking. You, of course, have the narratives popping off at different times. But as we continue trending upwards and gaining our confidence back, and until regular retail comes in, they're going to look quite similar across the board, especially in these macro bullish or bearish reversals. Let's shift lanes a little bit here and look at a coin called Plume. Now, Plume, again, like Aero, like Morpho, is a smaller cap. Actually, it's about half their size at about a 250 million market cap. But this is a layer one. It's a modularity coin, which means that it kind of breaks apart the unique aspects of a blockchain and does them independently, but focuses mainly on real-world assets. And if you guys remember, real-world assets is one of the best performing narratives right next to AI, and it's not overly saturated. So that gives Plume a lot of leeway, a lot of potential to shine, and shining it is. It just recently launched its mainnet, okay, a few days ago, which is massive. This is a big milestone for many crypto projects. So the TVL right now is at 56 million, which is kind of impressive considering I took this screenshot a few days ago. It was at 44 million. So they've gained, about 10 or 12 million dollars in TVL in just a few days. You can see here the chart is going up insanely quickly. So you can see they've also met with the SEC proposing a DeFi sandbox, okay, and new rules for tokenized securities. Now, the chart itself of Plume, unfortunately, does not look good at all in terms of there's nothing to really trade here, okay? So I've been informed, of course, as you can see, there is somewhat a zone we're looking at, which is a zone of support in this rough area. So waiting game, you want to be more of a sniper when it comes to trading. You don't want to force yourself into positions. That's where you make mistakes. You want to wait for things to look good. And with the fact that we have tens of thousands of altcoins, we have a lot to choose from. So patience is the key. Plume is a good longer-term investment at these levels. Let's now look at a similar coin in real-world assets, also a layer one, and that is Ondo. Now, Ondo is an interesting pick because at a 2.7 billion market cap, you would assume it's probably too far gone. I disagree. First of all, I think the whole idea around market cap is fake, fugazi. It doesn't really exist, and I've made a recent video a few days back talking about this. I think the amount of money coming into crypto, particularly altcoins, and especially a really, I think, highly sought after coin like Ondo, is going to give this coin the potential to do a Cardano or Solana of the last cycle, going around 100 billion market cap. Now, it's my prediction. Don't quote me on that, but of course, this coin out of tens of thousands, I think, is one of the top 5 to 10 that could possibly have a chance of doing this. So I have a lot of conviction in this project. Some of the reasons, of course, are just simply their connections, guys. They are a step and a way ahead of every other real-world asset project by far, period, except for maybe Link. Okay, so Chainlink, we'll talk more about Chainlink in just a second here. But essentially, they have massive partners, BlackRock, Wisdom Tree, Fidelity, even the DTCC, who are pretty much the settlement layer of the whole entire US financial system. It's getting big, and as you'll see in just a second, it's about to get bigger. Not to mention, just like Plume, their TVL just continues to go up and up and up. It kind of paused here for a bit, and then now it's continued higher, leading me to believe something's happened recently where they have begun onboarding possibly more securities or something's possibly happening. $1.3 billion TVL right now, so the market cap to TVL ratio is about a 2-to-1. Now, the important updates I was mentioning, and again, this goes back into the important catalyst that we need to obsess in these coins that may possibly give it a lot of buy pressure in the future. People often ask me, Kyron, when you do your price predictions, how do you kind of factor in, months or years ahead of time, a major announcement? Why doesn't that shock you for? It's because we read the roadmap, we read the writing on the walls of these projects, and so when that happens, regular retail who ignore it years or months before, they kind of go, oh my God, I better buy in. But we know about it because we talk about it here on the channel, all right? One of those things is the Ondo chain. This will cause a lot of buzz when this does launch. Also, the Ondo global markets. Now, in regards to the chart here, not too much is happening. Craig is not too happy with a potential short-term trade. Again, the same patterns have been playing out as well. We've got higher lows. We aren't in a complete bullish reversal until we break the neckline over here of around $1.13. On the 4-hourly time frame here, you can see something is possibly forming, but we will wait and see depending on how it treats this upper neckline over the next few hours. Now, of course, when talking about AI, I've got to mention Render. Now, the reason why is because this is an AI coin. It's in the Solana ecosystem, which is going to be a big buzz for the rest of this cycle, and it's also a DePIN coin. It also has insane ties. It's tied to literally CEOs that are the owners of the UFC, WWE, okay, over here, OpenAI, it's connected to NVIDIA, the very AI project causing the AI run itself. Just have a look at this map and pause the video and then come back and tell me why you cannot be bullish. They've also recently, thanks to Rendoshi for posting this, by the way, actually had some of their GPU power used to create this. Google used Render to create this little marketing campaign recently. That is how impressive this coin is. The weekly and these higher time frames all look very similar because, again, altcoins kind of end up working in a similar pattern to one another. Where they will differ and where we can find these short-term potential opportunities is, of course, in the lower time frames, 12-hour, 8-hour, and even 4-hour, where we need to monitor these altcoins for cyclicity, meaning what we're trying to do here is we are trying to find the higher lows and the higher highs to put in a actual reversal here, so the higher time frames end up forming based on whatever is happening on the lower time frames. So Render obviously makes it to this list. In terms of the multiples, again, I do think it definitely has 10x potential from these levels. To be honest with you guys, I think it's got much more in the tank, but the exact number you'll have to wait and see either a future video or, of course, join the private community. Now, an AI coin that I think has been swept under the rug recently is ICP, and that's because most people just think of it as a layer one. As a matter of fact, most people discredit it because the all chart looks kind of gross. And that's all thanks to Sam Bankman-Fried, because Sam Bankman-Fried, if you guys remember him from the previous cycle, he saw this as a direct competitor to his baby, which was Solana. And he didn't get early investment into this coin like he did Solana. So he, as most market makers do, decide to shift the tides in his favor, make the chart look horrible, but do believe me when I say this coin is one of the all-time best in this industry. And one of the reasons why is if you actually have a look at the R&D team behind ICP and how many people are flocking, this is developers I'm talking about, to build on ICP. And with ICP, it is right up next to Ethereum. They recently announced Caffeine AI, and I made a full video 4 days ago actually talking about this in much more detail and how beneficial it is. Essentially, they've created something called Caffeine AI, which will allow anyone, you, me, your dog even, to create their own website built on ICP, front end, back end, all secured. I'm so bullish on this for ICP. And the chart's also boosted up here recently as well. ICP, as you can see here, has put in some higher lows. 1, 2, 3. It has consolidated now for quite a while, around about 4 months. So this thing's been consolidating, gaining momentum over this time. And you can see here, finally, with the announcement of Caffeine AI, it has now officially put in a higher high, okay, which is, of course, a good thing. So what myself and Craig are eyeing off is a continuation. We want to see ICP begin to break out here. It is a ticking time bomb, I believe, regardless, because the fundamentals support this coin, I think, doing really well this cycle. The next coin is Injective. Again, I can just feel some of you guys cringing right now going, well, it's not a sub 100 million market cap coin current. I don't want to watch it. First of all, guys, if you want to see like degen micro cap picks, this isn't the channel for you. I've got my fair share of like sub 200 market cap coins, sub 500 market cap. Like I've got coins, even these large caps like Injective, I still think have a 10 to 20, maybe even 30x in the tank, believe it or not. Like I said, you don't need as much money as you think to move these coins, okay? However, Injective is on this list just because I think it's one of the most underrated powerhouses. You may even call it a hidden gem, even with its market cap size. The reason why is because, like Render, it's an AI coin. Like Ondo, like Plume, it's a real asset coin. It's a layer 1 coin. It's a DeFi coin. It's one of the most, I think, heavily narrative-focused coins of this bull run, which is, again, a very important point I look for in buying these altcoins. Now, again, you can have a lot of narratives, but if you're not hitting them adequately, it's pointless. But these guys are. They're hitting them quite heavily. They're very focused in every direction possible, okay? They've even had Canary Capital here propose an ETF in Delaware for this project, which is insanely good news. And it's one of the main reasons why this coin is the #1 performing layer 1 coin over the last 90 days. And like I mentioned at the start of the video as well, look, community is such an important thing when it comes to altcoins. I can't stress it enough. No community, no one's buying the coin, okay? So Injective has a dedicated, community fan account. You can see here with 27,000 followers, which is massive. They call themselves the ninjas, you can see here. And it's so important to build this community and to build a mascot because, again, you essentially have people always buying the floor. When the price comes down, they're buying. And they're what's called evangelists. They're people who fall in love with the coin, maybe a little too much in some cases, and they will promote it over social media all the time. It's free marketing, and that's, of course, what these founders know. The founders know this. That's why they bloody created this page. They're very, very smart indeed. So regarding the chart here, we need to break $15.50 here to go into a confirmation bullish trend, which is what Craig is eyeing off himself. Other time frames also don't look too bad, but nothing really he is eyeing off to trade with. We can go down the time frames, of course, look for more short-term trades, but in that same respect, in his true tried and tested cradle strategy, which is one of the things he uses here to trade these coins, he is eyeing off falling back into this cradle with, of course, a bullish candle to prove a strong reversal. As promised, Chainlink has to make this list, okay? Again, I don't have to repeat myself and say the reasons why I think this coin will still do high multiples, even at a 9 billion market cap. Just look at the previous cycles. Fundamentally speaking, like I said, Chainlink is, I think, probably right next to Ondo and others, like one of the top coins of this bull run. And that's simply because you can see, just recently they've also announced a working relationship with ANZ, which is one of the top 4 banks in Australia. Fidelity, okay, one of the large Hong Kong banks, and essentially looking at CBDCs, as bad as we all know they are, and how they would function cross-border using Chainlink, okay, in this process. They, of course, did this all via Visa. So this is Visa's report you can see here. And again, Chainlink's been partnered and working with these guys on the back end for, I think, at least 3 to 4 years. So you can go back on YouTube and even have a look yourself. The same story can be said, though, when it comes to TA. Nothing crazy to look at, of course. Here you can see we are putting in higher lows. We have put in a higher high here as well. So just waiting to see how Chainlink reacts and ideally coming back into the cradle to put in a long position. Before we get into Aether, which is the last coin on this list, some honorable mentions, of course, are Hedera H-Bar. We, of course, have very small caps that I like to talk about a lot, which is Pith, which is Mina. There's a lot of coins I personally own, Wormhole, for example, that I just don't have the time to talk about in these videos. I think, of course, as the market moves up and down, we should be making and taking advantage of these highs and these lows, okay? Fundamentally, these coins don't change all that much. But if we can trade the ups and the downs, we can just continue adding to our positions, which means that we bring down our average buy price. Okay, we lower our average buy price. If the market comes down, we don't have a problem with it. Aether is on this list. It is a so-called hidden gem at a 500 mil market cap, so to speak. It's DeFi, it's AI. It also has partners now that incorporate some tokenization aspects as well. So again, this goes back into the team being quality. All right. So Mark Ryden, the CEO of Aether, I've spoken with this guy. This guy's very, very smart. Okay. And he understands to gain max attention and attraction in crypto for this bull run, you've got to have your paws in RWA. So he is, of course, with partners like Injective even, okay? And this is one such example, okay? They've pointed out the fact that they are working to some degree with Plume. So very, very big stuff. And why I love this coin, why Peter from House of Crypto loves this coin as well, is because it is up there with some of the very best in terms of revenue. You can see here Aether in 17 spot as infrastructure. Monthly revenue is about $5.4 million, but you can see this is 100% down over the last 30 days. And I think it's a glitch in this particular analytics website. If you have a look at their website, it's actually $141 million annual recurring revenue, which pretty much means the average monthly revenue is actually around $12 million, which is kind of crazy. Now, the chart itself isn't showing anything too crazy, especially on the shorter time frames. However, as you can see, it has formed a new consolidation period. So this, of course, is very, very bullish if we do see any AI moves in general. So what do you think of these altcoins? Do you like them? Do you hate them? For this video, I am thinking of an emoji, and that emoji is the eye emoji. You know, the one with the two big eyes looking sideways? If you can find that one, drop it down below if you made it this far. I appreciate all you guys, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.